Of course, we are impressed by the position of the countries that put forward the initiative that the principles of the UN Charter should be respected and put into practice in their entirety and interrelationship. Indeed, there should be no double standards, unilateral sanctions, attempts to ensure their own security at the expense of others. We are being told today that we are violating the Charter of the United Nations. I don't think so. On the contrary, I am sure that we acted in full compliance with the UN Charter. After the coup d'état in the 2014 year, the Ukrainian authorities began fighting, in fact, against part of their people, using aviation, heavy equipment, tanks against those who did not agree with the coup d'état supported by the West in the 2014 year. That's how the West started the war in Ukraine. That's exactly how it was, and it's impossible to deny it. For our part, we have done everything to resolve this crisis peacefully by participating in the signing of the so-called Minsk agreements, which the Kiev authorities derailed, did not fulfill any of these agreements with the support of the West, did nothing at all. Moreover, they later announced that they would not comply with these agreements. We had to recognize the independence of certain territories, and for 8 years we did not recognize the independence of these newly formed republics, and for 8 years we tried to achieve a peaceful settlement. So, we recognized independence, signed a treaty of friendship, cooperation and mutual assistance with these newly formed states, all within the framework of the UN Charter. And within the framework of these treaties, their call for help was answered, and this is in full compliance with Article 51 of the UN Charter. There are no violations of the UN Charter here. But our Western partners have forgotten how they acted in Iraq, destroying the statehood of this country, and eventually eliminated Saddam Hussein. They have forgotten how they acted in Libya without any decision of the UN Security Council. They forgot that they destroyed the situation in Sudan. They forgot that they invaded Syria. They didn't give a damn about the UN Charter. They remember international law only when they believe that these tools can be used against someone, in this case against Russia. They won't succeed. It's too primitive. If they really want someone to comply with the UN Charter and other norms of international law, let them take the trouble to comply with the same norms of law themselves. But this, nevertheless, does not mean that we do not want and do not seek a peaceful resolution of any disputes. Both your approach and your ideas on settlement. As I said, we have carefully considered. This, by the way, echoes the provisions of the peace plan presented by the People's Republic of China in February to resolve the situation around Ukraine. Well, at the same time, and this is also well known, the Kiev authorities have issued a special regulatory framework, even a decree issued by the President of Ukraine prohibiting negotiations. For our part, we have never refused to negotiate. We have always publicly said that we are ready to offer dialogue. Let me remind you that, as I said at our previous meeting in St. Petersburg, the draft of this agreement was actually agreed upon. But after the withdrawal of our troops from Kiev, she was asked to do this in order to create conditions for concluding a final agreement. The Kiev authorities have abandoned all previous agreements. Therefore, I believe that the ball is completely on their side. And of course, I'm not going to talk about the details of what we agreed on now. It probably won't be very correct, but let me remind you, not everyone knows this, and we know well that Kiev gained its independence and independence at the collapse of the Soviet Union on the basis of the Declaration of Independence. And in this declaration it was written in black and white that Ukraine is a neutral state. And this is of fundamental importance for us. Why the West started dragging Ukraine into NATO is not very clear to us. This, in our opinion, creates a fundamental threat to our security. Because the promotion of the infrastructure of the military bloc, which is actually hostile to our borders, is unacceptable. There are other issues that need to be resolved, but of course we can talk about this in more detail in the closed part of our meeting. Thank you for your attention.